clinics to serve the people who are there. Israel blockades, besieges, and bombs a stateless people who are cut off from the world, and we in the United States reward them with arms and dollars. And the Senate voted its support with Resolution 498 in the midst of this massacre just a few weeks ago. This resolution condemns only Hamas, but it says nothing about what Israel is doing. 1,000 civilians have died in Gaza, 3 civilians have died in Israel. In sending this money to Israel and replenishing their weapons supply at the same time that they're continuing to bomb hospitals, schools, homes, and UN shelters for people whose homes have been destroyed, what are we saying? Are we saying that 1,000 Palestinian lives are worth far less than 3 Israeli lives? Bernie, because you did not vote to support Resolution 498, you, along with 18 other senators, I see that as somewhat of a positive move. However, are you going to go further? And I also think this is to be linked to the economic issues that you're talking about, with $30 billion going to Israel over the next 10 years. So, thank you.
Thank you for your question. And let me repeat. I very much dislike people disrupting meetings. You asked a good question, it's a reasonable question, it is an important issue, I'm going to answer it. And that's what we have to do. As a police officer here, it bothers me that police officers have to be here. They got a lot of work to do. And in Vermont, we should not have to have that. So I feel strongly about people disrupting this. But you've asked the question. Let me do this, probably the best thing. I sent out a letter. We got a number of people raising exactly the same concerns you did. So if you'll forgive me, let me read the letter that deals with your issue. Is that all right?
I've read your letter, but go ahead.
Right, here it is.
We've all read your letter.
We've all read your letter.
Yeah. We'd like
Have
to
you all
hear.
read? All right. All right, many of you have. All right, let me just touch it. Because I think, I'm sorry, the first thing is,
Kathy.
Kathy raises some very important issues. Number one, has Israel, or anybody in this room, happy or feel good about the kind of civilian death that we've seen in Gaza? The answer is no. Has Israel overreacted? Have they bombed UN facilities? The answer is yes. That is terribly, terribly wrong in my mind. On the other hand, and there is another hand on this issue, you have a situation where Hamas is sending missiles into Israel.
You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat.
Okay. And you know where some of those missiles are coming from? They're coming from populated areas. That's a fact. Hamas has used money that came into Gaza for construction purposes, and God knows they need roads and all the things that they need, and used some of that money to build these very sophisticated tunnels into Israel for military purposes.
For survival purposes.
Okay, one second.
Yes,
No, I don't want to be interrupted. The question was asked, it's a fair question, and I'm trying to... Okay, you see,
have the right to
look,
resist.
if you don't,
Yes, they did.
you know,
Gaza is like
excuse me, shut up. You don't have the microphone. You've asked, you know, I don't want police officers here.
You're going to arrest people?
No, I'm not going to arrest people, but are you going to allow us to have a discussion? What do you think?
You come down here. You're up there. Come down and be democratic. So any discussion with people.
Are you asking for the point?
Occupied populations have the right to resist.
All right. You're entitled to your view. You've asked the question, I'm answering it. This is called democracy.
That
All
we
right.
should be able to speak on.
All right, I am answering a question, and I do not want to be disturbed and disrupted. All right? You're not the only people here. Kathy asked a reasonable question, and I'm trying to answer it, and I don't want to be disrupted. All right? In my view, you're entitled to your view. I am entitled to my view. In my view, Hamas has done those things, and on top of that, Hamas is very clear. Their view is that Israel should not have a right to exist. That's the fact.
Bullshit!
All right. Hey, you know what?
It's not a dirty word.
Okay. You know,
It's not just a
you know,
terrorist group. It's a service organization.
all right.
The word
Further
means
all,
something to people. people
Okay.
like
Okay.
Israel.
Can I finish my remarks?
Fuck.
And the answer is,
Finish.
if you can't come to a meeting and ask the question, then please, don't come to me. All right, furthermore, the issue of Gaza is not the only issue right now in that region. As some of you may have noticed, there's a group called ISIS. You know what ISIS is?
Yes.
ISIS is, excuse me! ISIS is a group receiving money from around the world that wants to convert parts of Iraq and Syria into a 7th century caliphate. You know what women's rights are in that area? They're below, excuse me,
Let him talk.
they are, if nobody wants to listen, they can
All right,
leave.
all right. I don't need to be patted on the back right now.
All right. So you have a situation right now where we are figuring out in that region how you deal with people who have tens of thousands of very armed and aggressive people who may be making significant gains in that area. So the point that I'm making is, yeah, I share your concerns about Israeli overreaction. I was not one of the people who signed on to that resolution. But the issue is broad. I believe in a two-state solution. I would hope that the United States, in a very, very difficult situation where the leadership on both sides is not particularly good, can finally work out a situation where Israel has the right to exist in security. At the same time, the Palestinians have a state of their own. And that's what I would like to see. Okay? I've been working on it for the last 50 years. I'm sorry, I don't have the magic answer. This is a very depressing and difficult issue. This has gone on for 60 bloody years. Year after year, war after. If you're asking me, do I have a magical solution? I don't. And you know what? I doubt very much that you do. Okay, that is my answer. Some of you, I hear that some of you don't like it. You have better ideas. That's great. Let me get some other questions here.